and say welcome to Chicago Title's Escrows in Paradise. This is being recorded. We do ask that as you join the call that you mute yourself, and that way everyone will be able to hear as we're presenting on this topic. We have got an absolute ton of information to share with you, but our commitment to you is that we will keep it to an hour. We respect your time. And then, of course, if there's things you want to follow up with one-on-one with any of your sales execs or Christy, our escrow officer, off camera, one-on-one, we're happy to accommodate that. So we will make this presentation available to all attendees. And if you have questions throughout, just go ahead and type them in the chat. We'll keep an eye on the chat and kind of feed those questions to Christy as she takes a breath, which we're hoping that she's going to have a couple of opportunities to do. So without any further ado, I do want to let you know that our sales team is all on the call, and that consists of Robin Albert, Val Allen, Brad Fisher, Linda Johnson, and Lisa Williams. And then we have invited Escrow Officer Christy Kutka to lead us through that. So without any other ado, I guess is the word, we're just going to launch right in. Click.
So I have been with Chicago Title for 28 years. I just celebrated that in April. And I've been running a desk for 20 years almost. And every day I learn something new about escrow, and it makes me kind of chuckle to myself when I hear, well, that's how we've always done it. Well, escrow is forever changing, and where I get used to one thing, I have to morph into something else pretty quickly. And with our COVID changes, that has happened a lot. Probably didn't help matters any more than I was working in the office for a while until June 14th, where I decided to go hiking and I broke my leg. So I have been at home for the last 2 months, and my team, there's half of us that are working from home and half of us that are working from the office, and we're learning how to do escrow again. We're figuring it out, and we're trying to make it as seamless as possible for all of you. So what I will tell you, we're just going to step back, and I'm just going to explain what my job is. My job is to uphold the contract and to clear title. That's the nitty gritty, and then we have this little explanation here. I'm a neutral third party. I hold the legal documents and I disperse funds. So that, when I tell people that, they go, oh, that's all? That little nitty gritty right there keeps me very, very busy all day long, because these are all the people that I get to deal with all day long. So I'm dealing not just with the buyers and sellers and agents, but I'm having to deal with existing lenders and past lenders and clearing title and people who have submitted bills and exchange companies. And there are people all day long that I am dealing with to make sure that this transaction runs smoothly. One thing that I don't even see on there, I don't know, a solar company, which really takes a lot of our time nowadays. So don't get me started on solar, because that's a whole nother class that we need to have Loveneat Baines teach for you guys, because solar is a monster in itself. So next screen, please.
Yes, I think the graphic was pre-solar.
Pre-solar. Oh, gosh. Okay, so we're going to just go down this road of the 5 elements of a successful escrow. And when I tell you these things are super duper important, I think I'm minimizing it when I say it's super duper important. So complete information. What I will tell you is the more information you provide to us, the better, the smoother your transaction is going to be. And I am a firm believer that escrow should be smooth, and it should be kind of relatively fun. So give me all the information that I can get. Things like their names, their full names, their contact information, their if there's something crazy that's going on, I need to know it all. Communication. It's super important for us to be able just like you want us to communicate with you, we like you to communicate with us. So if you have something that you need to say, pick up the phone, send us an email. We got you dialed in. The next one is realistic expectations. We're finding a lot of times that people are not setting those with their customers. So where you might think, okay, this is how we've always done it, I think we need to stop just a second and realize that these are crazy times and we're all trying to do our best. So I'm going to ask you, so what is your expectation? Just like I would hope that we could communicate back and forth saying, this is what reality looks like on our end. So I don't want to, where it used to be wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, we could get things done, sign, fund, close in the same day. It's getting harder and harder to do that. Not that we can't, but it's a little hard to do that. So next, where's my...
I'm trying to click. There we go.
Okay, have patience. Yeah, so patience is not just a virtue, it's a great way of handling an escrow also. If we can just be kind to one another, I want to be on your team, just like I want you to be on my team. I don't want to fight with you. I want us all to live in harmony together on happy Escrow Island. So if that's the case, let's be kind to one another and understand that things are happening as fast as they possibly can. I chuckle to myself every once in a while. Somebody will say that they escrow holders holding things up. Well, what I will tell you is escrow officers like to close escrows. That's in their job title. So we want to close them as fast as possible also. And then our last one is be flexible. So flexibility is super important because, we're running into problems like the banks are closed, or it's just taking longer for the wires to get out from the banks, or doors, right now, currently our office doors are closed, but we are working with our notaries and our customers to make sure that everybody, remains safe and we can close an escrow as fast as possible. So that just kind of means that the way we've always done things might not be the way that we're going to be doing things currently, but our goal still is to close an escrow as fast as possible. So what to provide when you're going to open up an escrow. So I always believe that if I have a contract and a preliminary report, I have a pretty good roadmap of where I am headed in our transaction. A contract that is legible is always the best way to go. With the most amount of information as possible. So that's one good, really important thing. Contact information for all of your parties. So what we would like is the buyer's information, meaning phone numbers and email addresses. Seller's information, phone numbers and email addresses. So any special circumstances or instructions. So if somebody is getting a divorce, we'd like to know that, because there's nothing more embarrassing than going to somebody and saying, we'd like both you and your wife to sign, when they hate each other. Or if there's somebody that's deceased, we would like to have that information too, just because I don't want to go and say, so we need Bob to sign and Bob is no longer with us. It just brings up pain for people, that unnecessary pain for the people who are involved in the transaction. So
Christy, I'm going to just interject really fast, because this literally just happened 2 days ago. Somebody was dead. We never knew that person was dead.
Right.
We wrote the contract with the one person,
right.
And the realtor goes, well, he's not here. The realtor never told our escrow officer. The thing has been opened for 26 days.
Right.
Never
and it
told
happens
them that the guy was dead.
And it's so embarrassing. And again, when we go down this road of escrow shouldn't be painful. It shouldn't be this hard thing. But there's ways, if we're communicating with one another, to make sure that that is the case. So yeah, it happens all the time, and it's horrible. So the next one is commission. I know you guys want to get paid. We want to pay you, but we need to know what that amount is. So if we could have that amount and how you're dividing it between the agents, that would be awesome. And then where are we at? Oh, now we're on to the next slide. So important things to know. Power of attorneys. We if you are taking a listing and people start talking about trusts and power of attorneys, reach out to your escrow holder as soon as possible, because then we can get things approved in advance. So I had a transaction recently with a customer. They were like, oh, I've been told they can use a power of attorney. Well, a trust was in title. Well, trusts and power of attorneys traditionally do not go hand in hand. So what we did figure out was that she was also the successor trustee of the trust. So she was able to step in and take care of that. And I kindly explained that if you run into that kind of thing, reach out to us, because what we can do is we can have our title facility review the documents in advance so you can have the right person in the right capacity signing your documents from day one. Because what happened was when he had that power of attorney sign or using the power of attorney, that wasn't their capacity. Their capacity was successor trustee. So he had to go back, and not only did he have to change the capacity, but he had to add another successor trustee to the contract. And so she had to go back and sign everything all over again. So let us help you and make your life easier. If your buyers or sellers are out of state, we need to know that information, because it will take us longer to get documents signed. Most of the time it's fairly easy that we can kind of do it in a 24 to 48 hour period. But what I will tell you is that sometimes it's hard to get notaries right now because everybody is stretched very thin. There are states that require attorneys to sign the documents, and that takes a little bit longer sometimes to find a notary, and quite honestly, it's a lot more expensive too. So the more information we have, the better off we are. And then if the customers are out of the country, whether they are on vacation or whether they are actually not a United States citizen, we need to know that information right away. There are things that we have to deal with, whether it be FERPTA, whether it be the customer needs to sign at the American consulate. There's countless things that have to go on when we're dealing with somebody who's out of the country. If they're leaving the country and we know this, we can also have somebody sign on their behalf. So we can draw a power of attorney that's super easy to sign before somebody does leave the country. So again, communicate with your customer or with your escrow holder, and we can make your transaction a lot easier. If this is not an owner occupied, if this is an investment property where somebody is living in it currently, we need to know if there are rents that need to be prorated or security deposits that need to be transferred, that kind of thing. So the more, again, give us all the information, we can take care of it for you. Next. Okay, so again, we start going down the road of divorces, deaths. We'll need copies sometimes of death certificates. Sometimes we need copies of marriage certificates because the names have changed. That kind of thing. What I will tell you also, sometimes people have gotten married since they have purchased the property. They will make a mental note of this. They sign their name how their driver's license currently reads, not how they took title. What we'll do is we'll bridge that information and get a copy of the marriage license so we can make that happen. If there's anything awkward that we need to know, let's just not embarrass your teammate there. PUD, homeowners association. If you tell us that we don't always know that something is in a homeowners association. Sometimes it'll show up on the preliminary report, but not all the time. Fortunately, I mean, I can kind of figure out by the street name most of the time because I've been doing this for so long, but every once in a while it's like, I never would have guessed that was in a homeowners association. So the more information, the better. If there's any specific needs that you need from us, you need us to reach out and call the buyer and arrange for wire instructions, please tell us. If there's anything that you need that the seller has to, the seller's leaving the country again, we need to get them to sign, super fast. Tell us that information. As far as the home warranty goes, we ask that the agents order the home warranty. And the reason why we do that is because we are not familiar with what the buyer or seller have agreed upon as far as the options, what company, that kind of stuff. So as soon we will anticipate an amount on our statement, but we don't know who it is. So we do ask that as soon as as soon as possible, order that home warranty. And then who is the natural hazard company? A lot of people have their preferences now. I can kind of tell for the most part who is the who the NHG company is going to be with some of our major offices in the area. But if you could tell us, we will get that ordered for you right away. And then, of course, in bright red letters, solar. So solar, what we ask is that we get on that as soon as possible. There are a lot of documents that take place outside of us. And we're going to have to unpack that at another day and time, but it is, we'll run down that. So solar, tell us who the company is, and we'll walk you through everything else. Next, what happens in the escrow process from opening to docs? So we accept the earnest money deposit. Currently, we have a little bit of a change in how we do that. We can do that through a wire or a personal check if it's a 30-day escrow. If it is less than 30 days, if we're doing one of those fast escrows, we need either a cashier's check or a wire because we have to make sure that the money is in the bank when we are closing. We are governed by the good funds law. So we need to make sure all funds are in and cleared. When depositing right now with us, we have a station out front with envelopes and pens and all that kind of stuff, and we have a bucket for any right outside of our building where we're having things deposited. And if you want to call us when you get it, that's awesome. Okay, so here's my new favorite thing. It's called Start Safe. I call it something completely different. I call it Start Smart because I have renamed it to make myself happy. But what happens is we send out these emails right in the beginning of our transaction to our buyers and sellers. That's why it's so important to have the email address and the phone number for the customer. The buyer will receive an email that says, hey, wire fraud's on the uprise. Please make sure that you take care of things and you don't send your wire, you confirm with your escrow holder every time that you send out a wire. You tell them what you're doing, pick up the phone, all those kind of things. Then we also get some basic information so we can make sure, because again, our job is to clear title and uphold the contract. So we start gathering information on day one, if provided the information, how to start clearing title for both the buyer and the seller. So on the buyer side, we get some basic information, how they are thinking they're going to want to hold title, if we're going to be dealing with a spouse that's not of record or not going on title, that kind of stuff. We can deal with interspousals then. On the seller side, we ask if there's any payoffs that we need to be aware of. So we can now, because of this new email, we can get the payoff information from the seller and order these payoffs almost immediately. We have cut down on running around with our heads cut off at the last minute trying to gather the information because the seller's been providing it on day one. So keep an eye out for it. It does look a little generic, the email, so we do get emails or calls regularly saying, did you really send this? We really do send that. And so this is with all of the Fidelity families. So, and we are part of that. Next is we're issuing the preliminary report. We're going to make sure that title is clear. So we go through all these papers and we check to see if there's any hiccups that are taking place. What I'm going to tell you right now is that is a whole nother class dealing with a preliminary report. A big class that we can teach you how to read through a preliminary report. So if the customer tells you, hey, we have one payoff and then 3 show up, we need to talk about that immediately, because where, yes, it's not your problem, it would be a problem if we're not closing on time. So next one is we're going to deal with payoffs, and just like we talked about, we're going to order a solar, normal stuff. We create packages for the buyer and seller to sign. what I will tell you, because of the TRID thing, the seller has to sign their closing statement / closing disclosure before the buyer is able to sign their loan documents. So if the seller's leaving, we want to know as soon as possible, because we want to make sure that everything is sitting there waiting, ready to go when the buyer's loan docs get here. Throughout the transaction, we're going to be accepting invoices to pay through our transaction. Our job is to take written instruction. So if your contract says that the buyer has waived their right to a home warranty, we do need to have an instruction that says, oh wait, we've changed our mind. We do want a home warranty. And those instructions do need to be signed by all parties. Next, preliminary report gives you a blueprint of what the property and potential liens. That is big, big, big. So roadmap, prelim, purchase agreement. Statement of identity, that clears the names. The good news about that start smart, whatever it is, thing is that we have cut back on needing to get statement of information from our customers, because it gives us just enough information that we don't have to collect that anymore, which is really nice. So if we could get the start smart thing, safe thing done in advance, then we're in good shape. Next. Okay, so now the loan documents. Loan docs are here. The seller has signed. We've cleared title. We're all good to go. We receive the loan documents most of the time by email. We print those documents and then we figure the file. What I will tell you is that we're getting a lot of loan documents a day. So we're trying to go as absolutely fast as possible and accurately to make sure that there are no issues at the last minute. I'm going to try to be as delicate as possible when it comes down to this conversation, but there's so many things that are happening at one time when an escrow is trying to close. And the faster we go to get these documents signed, the more of a chance there might be a problem with inputting a number an incorrect way. Now, I figure files all day long, and 9 times out of 10, I don't have a problem, but this rush thing really is starting to clobber us, because we're trying to get as many things done as possible, and problems happen because of the rush. So I want to be really careful. Back. Anyway, so once we get the documents, we're going to figure the file. And then, what do you think, Jen?
I'm trying to, there we go.
There we go. Okay, I'm like, I could tell you in my heart what happens, because I do it all day long. So we're going to make sure that there's no funding conditions for the lender. We're going to make sure that the CD for the seller has been delivered to the lender also. We're going to make arrangements for the buyer to sign. Again, it's super important for us to know where the buyer is located. We got a set of docs the other day and nobody told us that the buyer was in San Francisco. It gets exciting because we're thinking, oh, we're just going to pop them in, get it closed and be done. Well, there's more to it than that. We're going to, and when that happens, then we have to deal with a national notary service that our company has. And, you know, it's hard to find a notary. Then you start getting into places where COVID is rampant, and there's a lot of notaries who don't want to work. So we got to keep in mind that I can figure a file really super fast, but sometimes finding a notary isn't that easy. So we got it, again, patience makes a happy escrow. So we're going to review our documents, review their documents. Once they're signed, then we scan them back into our system and we scan them over to the lender, and then we send them the hard copies. So we're getting ready here. We're getting ready. And then this is what happens after those documents are signed. So we're going to send them back to the lender. They're going to review the documents. Sometimes they can get conditions out to us super fast. There are lenders who are saying 24 to 48 hours before they can get us conditions. So it just depends on who we're dealing with. Not every lender is the same. So you can't say, well, I just did a sign fund close on a transaction, why can't you do it on this one? Every lender is different, and the circumstances literally change from moment to moment. So we're going to all do our best. We're going to make sure that the buyer's funds are deposited. When it comes down to buyer's funds, we would like a cashier's check or a wire. We are, again, governed by the good funds law. We have to make sure the money's in the bank. There are certain credit unions in town that do not have cashier's checks. They will tell you that they're cashier's checks. They are official checks or bank checks. They can take up to 3 or 4 days to clear if we accept one of those types of checks. The big hitters, you know, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, they all have cashier's checks. The wire process for them is looking a little bit more complicated. We are telling our customers, and you kind of need to make a mental note of this yourself, and that is wires, there are banks out there who are requiring appointments to do these wires. Don't get caught.
And sometimes cashier's checks, Christy.
Yeah, so if that is the case, make sure that the customer reaches out to their bank to find out what the process looks like. What I will also tell you is, just like us, our process is one way right now, but it can change on a dime. So if that is the case, we need to make sure that they're checking with their bank, you know, before, and then as it gets closer to, so they can set that appointment. Because I don't know how, you know, we had one that almost didn't close at the right time because she went into the bank and they're like, sorry, we can't get your wire out for, you know, 24 hours. And she's like, whoa. And fortunately she talked to a bank manager and it all worked out, but it can be a mess. So when you're representing a buyer, have these conversations in advance. We work with all parties and work by instruction that everybody is ready to close. So we do send out an email that says, okay, are you all ready? And that's, you know, again, it's written contract. So if all things have been met, we need to talk about that. File documents. So we're going to make sure that the title facility has the package and they review everything. They're going to date down the preliminary report also. What that means is on the day that we open the transaction, there is a plant date that normally is about 2 weeks prior to us opening up our transaction. We can't get all the documents that have been recorded against our property on the exact date, because it takes a while for the documents to be input into the big system in the sky that holds all the information about recorded documents. I don't know where it's at. Anyway, so what happens is once they we ask them to go and check one more time to make sure in that period of time from the plant date to our recording date that nothing else has recorded. Does not happen very often, but when it does, it's horrible, because what happens is that we've already funded the loan at this point, because we do not traditionally, unless requested, we do not update our preliminary report.
So Chris, a quick question on that for you. When you get those last minute surprises, how often do you find out that the party was actually aware that this could be a problem and was just hoping to beat the clock, as opposed to being genuinely surprised that there was this issue?
The one that sticks out in my mind the most is when we had $100,000 IRS lien against the seller. That man was not surprised one bit. He was not surprised. He was hoping that it wasn't going to show up, but he was not surprised when it happened. You know, and if I would have had, again, communication or that heads up, I would have checked days before, but we don't know what to check for unless we're being told that there's a problem. Okay, so yeah, sometimes we need to know all of the things. So they're not surprised. That's all I gotta say. They're not surprised. Documents have been reviewed by we review our paperwork. We submit our documents to the recorder's office. What I'm going to tell you is almost every little item that's on our little list here it takes a little bit for it to happen. So once the documents are signed, they're not just immediately sent over within 5 minutes. They have to review the documents, they have to prep them. And when we get those in, it takes about an hour or two to get everything uploaded and transferred over to the lender. It takes, a little bit for the recorder's office, or excuse me, the lender to review all of their paperwork. It takes a little bit for the title facility to review our documents. It takes a little bit for the recorder's office to review the documents. So nothing is instantaneous. We can, in certain circumstances, and we hate it, it can happen if we got documents at 8 o'clock in the morning. Every once in a while, we can get it closed in the afternoon. It's getting harder and harder to do this because these time frames are growing because there's so many documents to review.
And Christy, would you say that that even with the technology and everything like that, that sometimes it's not on our end, but the recorder's office hits a backlog or a snag, or the recording service hits a backlog or a snag, and it's just like a traffic jam?
Yeah, so technology is great until it isn't. And when it isn't, it's just like, oh no, we've done all of these, everybody came together and we all did what we were supposed to do. And now look at what's happened. We can't get the information from the recorder's office. Sadly, there's always tomorrow. So my thought, I always joke around about, it's not over to the fat lady sings. I'm the fat lady. It's not over until I'm telling you it's over. And sadly, every once in a while it happens where the system just isn't working, and I'm sorry, but we have no control over technology. And we could, but we can't. So again, we're on record if everything goes as planned. Fat lady sings. So that's
and again, if the recorder's office finds one document they don't like, they stop checking.
Oh yeah. So what?
Back.
So it's super terrible with this dang recorder's office, So what happens is they check for every T crossed and every I dotted. If there's a problem with the deed, they will tell you there's a problem with the deed, fix it, and they send it back. They haven't looked at the other 2 or 3 documents. So literally they can go, okay, thank you for fixing the deed. Now there's a problem with the deed of trust. So when we start talking about let's go sign, fund, close, logistically speaking, we need a minute to review the documents. We lose that minute every time we decide to wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and get it all done. We lose the minute. We don't even have time. It's a wing and a prayer every time we decide to go this route of closing without having a minute to review the documents. And so we're all doing our absolute best. And again, when we start talking about preparing for realistic expectations, we're doing our best. But sometimes it is what it is. So what I chuckle to people, when people go, I've never heard of a document being rejected. Well, as escrow holders, because we are firm believers that we like to make things as easy as possible, we don't tell you all of the issues that we run into. It's not your job to be stressed out like the rest of us and losing our hair. It's our job to be losing our hair. So we're not going to tell you all the time. A lot of times we're just going to tell you, oh, it's on record. What I will tell you is our recorder's office is really hard to work with most of the time. And they're very particular in our county. And I can tell you also, if you've had more than a handful of transactions, yes, your documents have been rejected. We just don't tell you. We just make it happen because we're little fairies, escrow fairies. Yeah, we make things happen.
Well, and there should be no reason, to be honest, there should be no reason somebody needs to sign, fund, and record in the same day if everybody was working together to do it right the first time, correct?
Well, I mean, honestly, I kind of chuckle to myself because a lot of times people are given the opportunity to do their job in a timely manner. When it gets to escrow, for some reason, because we don't always tell you where the problems lie because we're trying to be superheroes. When that happens, we try not to complain too much, so because we want to get the job done. We're people pleasers when it comes to escrow holders, and because of that, we make it look a lot of times like it's easy and everybody can do it. What I will tell you is that we're kind of like those ducks. We're all calm on the on the top of the water, and on the bottom we're like freaking the heck out. That is what is happening. We're just, I was talking to the girls the other day. We are going to be calm, but sometimes once we hang up that phone, we're like, I can't believe this is happening right now, because there's a lot of things that have to happen, and we're trying to make you happy. So patience, and when you guys tell us what a horrible job we've done and we don't tell you all the things that we've done trying to make it happen, it's heart-wrenching for us because we do take our job so seriously. So let's talk about, okay, we're on record. So just because we're on record doesn't mean that instantaneously money lands in people's accounts and all that kind of good stuff. There's a whole process that has to happen, and a lot of times what's happening is when we do get recording confirmation, it's super late in the afternoon. So what I'm going to tell you is, every once in a while, if you tell us what your expectation is, hey, I'm leaving town, is there any way I can get my check? A lot of times we can work that out with you. But we have to know what the expectation is on your end. So hypothetically speaking, in my unit, if you close at 4 o'clock today, Thursday, you will be seeing your check tomorrow. The seller and buyer, they will see their money also. Monies go through the Federal Reserve most of the time. Most people are electing to have their funds wired to them, and that is no problem at all. But what I will say is that when we're wiring these funds, especially like if it's a Wells Fargo, a lot of times the money's hit immediately, but we are now saying 24 to 48 hours once we close for the sellers to see their funds, because we don't know what the Federal Reserve is going to look like on their end either. The little credit unions, even EEC, which is not really little, they don't immediately post those funds into the customer's account. It takes a minute for this to happen. So when all of these things are taking place, we just need to set some realistic expectation. We would be more than glad and it's a case-by-case basis. So just because it's happened one way on one transaction, it doesn't necessarily happen another, the same way on this transaction. Because again, things are changing so rapidly on our end that we are just trying to keep up and make it look as easy as possible. So we have to, once it closes, we have to go through the whole doggone file again. We're going to make sure that we're constantly making sure that the contract and the closing statement match each other, that the instructions that we have received are the instruction that we have produced this closing statement that looks the same way. Payoffs are accurate. So we're going to make sure that the payoffs are updated. Because again, a lot of times what's happening with these when we're going so fast, we don't have time anymore to do that final check until we're ready to close escrow. We're going to make sure that the commissions are right. We're going to make sure that if there's any closing or commission disbursement instructions, that we're upholding those. And we're going to make sure that all of our invoices have been paid. So it's that last moment, that final check, we do not like rushing through that, because our thought process is that when we close a transaction, we don't want any hiccups later on. We don't want somebody saying, well, I wish that I would have known XYZ, or I wish that I would have, because we're trying to give people along the way, give them the closing statements for them to review. But a lot of times people aren't looking at those statements, which just kills me. So my thought is, if you have a closing statement, look at it. Make sure that it looks accurate to you. You know, if you're getting ready to close and you don't have a closing statement, request a copy of the closing statement. Make sure that your commission looks the right way. Make sure, you know, that that bill, that one, you know, that home warranty that might not have made it on the contract, but now we got to go back and, you know, get it on the contract. Those kind of things are addressed. So that
and anything that you run into very often on credits and things like that being changed and working with those expectations?
So what I will tell you is we are extremely flexible when it comes down to credits, bills, that kind of thing. Who is not necessarily as flexible sometimes is the lender. And it's not because the lenders are trying to not close your deal. It's because sometimes there are requirements that the lender has made, and or there's a certain amount that the buyer can only bring in. There's a certain amount that the buyer has to bring in. So there's all these little parameters that has to happen in order for the money to be lent. So to receive a statement on the day that we're closing that there is a credit, I have zero problem putting it on the contract, but if the lender doesn't agree to it, we can't do it. So you gotta make sure that you're keeping everybody in the loop of what you're doing. You gotta make sure that the lender is okay with these things, because we can't just go say, oh, there's a hole in the wall and now they want a credit of $10,000. That doesn't fly. That doesn't fly. You know, can it fly? Yeah, it can if the lender's okay with it. But if it's a cash deal, what I will tell you is it's like kind of like the wild, wild west. We can take an instruction and we can run with it and leave it at that. No big deal. Cash is super easy in the scheme of things, but rare, you know, for sure.
So we had a question asking if we're seeing more COVID-related delays, you know, who are those delays coming from?
Yeah, so we certainly are. So the delays that we're looking at currently, we're running into, obviously the appraisers are stretched thin. The notaries are stretched thin. I'm sure that with people, you know, I'm working from home. Yes, there are 3 people in the office on my team that are working in the office. But again, I can't go run and check and see if there is an issue. Again, mine's not COVID related, but there are other people within our office that it is COVID related, because we're trying to keep everybody safe. You know, I'm sure that it's frustrating that we're doing things a whole new different way, that they don't get to deal with the human interaction like we're used to doing. So it feels like to me, just like in your industry, you know, you've had to learn how to show houses a different way, communicate with your customer a different way. We're all experiencing the same thing. So I chuckle to myself that when somebody says, you know, we think that it's made up, it's not made up, you know.
So what if you discover at the time of signing that one of the buyers or one of the sellers has an active COVID case, that they are sick? How do we navigate that in escrow?
Okay, so that is not a fictitious situation. That is happening to us. And if the customer has an active, you know, ailment, unfortunately, we have to wait until they are not sick, because our job is to make sure that we keep everybody safe. And transmitting this disease to somebody else, we're not going to be doing that. So we had a seller that finally got well in the middle of right at the end of our transaction, but we had to wait for him to be well to sign his closing disclosure, because he couldn't even get out of bed. And where a closing disclosure can be signed, it can be signed with a document or a digital signature. We can do that, but if they're too sick to get out of bed, We can't have that happen. So everybody, I will tell you, there's some documents on the buyer's side if they're getting a new loan that have to be notarized. There's documents on the seller's side that have to be notarized. So if we have to keep those notaries safe, because if we contaminate them literally because of one transaction, there are probably about 100 other transactions that we will not be able to close because we don't have that notary available to us. So.
Are we seeing much fallout due to job loss in our area on the transaction? Many escrows canceling?
I know that it is happening. I know that it is happening. It's really interesting because of what we all do for a living, and how busy it is currently. It is hard for me, honestly, and it's so short-sighted. It really is, but it's hard for me to realize that things are going on outside of our little bubble right now because we are so slammed busy. But then I have a girlfriend who just had to close her business the other day, and we have small business owners in our community that are no longer able to keep afloat. So I know that it is happening, and I'm pretty confident we're going to see the fallout at some point soon.
Okay. That's all the questions that I see in the chat. We've got a couple minutes left before we want to share with you some products that will help you continue to have more escrows. So if anybody wanted to unmute and ask a question directly, this would be the time.
I do see
I guess
one.
you did such an amazing job.
Oh yeah, I do see one question right here. So do we check for liens or child support? So let's talk about that for just a second. Seller's side, yes, we're checking for liens. And are we able to say what's on the buyer's side? What's happening on the buyer's side now? What is our okay? So on the buyer's side, we're not running names anymore. But we're looking for bankruptcy. We're looking for like the big major things, but
you're looking for federal liens.
Federal liens, yeah. But what I will tell you is that we're not looking for child support, abstracted judgments, or anything like that. So what that means is if a buyer is buying a piece of property and their spouse is not going on title, not only does the buyer's liens go on the property, and we don't know what they are because we're not checking, and the spouse's liens will go on the property also. So they will not come up. They will not rear their ugly little heads. They're not going to prevent you from closing escrow. But when you go to refinance or sell, we're going to have to deal with that. So it's not that they're never going to have to be dealt with. They're just not being dealt with now.
And there'll be lots of interest after that.
And when that happens, it's gonna be bad. So whatever.
All right. And one last question, and that's why we're saying that solar is a whole different animal, because we're asking if we're still seeing weird or bad solar liens or companies and the hero and the pace liens. I can say even just the minimal amount I get involved in that, it's still a disaster and a complete tangled mess, and
we could spend hours on a solar class.
So yeah, and that's where we need to put that together.
That is going to be our September class. The short answer is yes.
Yes.
So
yeah, the solar, the hero, the pace, all of those things.
Hero is not a hero.
Hero is not a hero. They're mean and horrible humans that sell those things and make those poor people. And the worst part is that people just don't realize that they have to take care of. I mean, there's no free lunch. I don't know how to tell you. Or free solar, or free windows, or free water heaters. None of that stuff. So.
Right. There's a few nonprofits that make that possible, but for the most part, you got to pay at some point. So, well, thank you for your time, Christy. We're going to shift now into, we know and we hear from our clients constantly that the inventory is shrinking at an alarming rate, and the buyers with low interest rates, that they just want to find that new home. There's also a lot of realization that as we shelter in place, we don't like the place that we're sheltering that much, and we'd like to make a change. So I'm going to turn it over to my team to just go over some things that we have that will help. So
good morning. I just want go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just kidding.
Sorry, Jen. I'm Val Allen, your Madeira sales exec, and I just wanted to touch base and talk about chicagotitle.com. It's a great product for you to look up properties for property profiles, comps, maps. Lots of blank legal documents and other items can be found on there. It has a great marketing component to it as well if you're looking for flyers for your customers or mail outs. And then it also has its counterpart in form of a mobile device called Title Now, an app for your phone where you can look up the same things, including snapping a photo of a house that you might not see the number posted on. And the GPS in your phone will bring that property profile directly into your phone. So Chicago Title Now and Title Now, and get a hold of any of us here at Chicago Title and we'll get that in your hands. Thank you.
Perfect. Next up, we're doing a lot of presentations on these two items and they're really helping our clients. Brad?
Yeah, I'm Brad, one of your sales execs, and we just introduced Active Farm several months ago, and I would tell you, if you haven't met with your sales executive, you need to meet with them very soon regarding this product. There's a lot to it. There is a free side to it and a paid part of it, but basically you can get your neighborhood's facts immediately within a few minutes. It completely breaks down the neighborhood as far as how long people have lived there. It provides the turnover ratios, the equity. If you're interested in phones and emails, you can get those as well. They even have sample letters in there for you to help you get started, which you can customize. I guess my favorite thing on there is the equity availability, and a few lenders on the line there. I saw a few interest rates are on there, so you can go after those people that have a higher interest rate. So Walking Farm is the cousin, which we start out, many of you may already have that, but Active Farm and Walking Farm integrate together, so you can have your mobile device with you, and whatever you put in Active Farm will go in Walking Farm and vice versa. Let's see.
I just want to share one quick story about how one of my clients used Active Farm. They'd lost out on a listing they really wanted in that area, and they were looking for those exact type of houses within a subdivision. So you could just draw a circle, bring up the bed bath count, then look at the houses and write a letter directly to those owners to see if they had any interest in selling at all. And I know all of us have stories like that of helping our clients with that. Brad?
No, I'm just going to close with, you can get labels instantly, or you can have us print them out for you. Again, there's a lot to this product. Everybody's going to have their different, oh, I want this, I want that. So please call your sales executive. We'll set up a half-hour, 30-minute, 40-minute demo, and then you can pick and choose what you want. And what there are so many benefits to it that I don't have long enough. So next.
And if we get enough interest, we can do a specialty class taking just about 30 to 45 minutes to go through this in more detail. So be certain to let your sales exec know if that's a class you'd be interested in jumping on. Moving on, specialty leads and info. These are all paid leads, but at a very reasonable cost. And I'm going to let Linda jump in on this.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing about Active Farm, though, that we forgot to talk about is that it's live. So you never have to get an update on your farm. It's live the whole time. It will update new owners, everything. So I get the specialty leads section. I'm Linda Federico Johnson now. I get the specialty leads. So I get the stuff that costs money, which is okay, because it's also going to help you do some fun things. So the first one is the premium leads inside of your chicagotitle.com. And those premium leads allow you to run specifics. So the best example I always use is you can say in a specific zip code, people who are in a 2-story home that are 65 years and older that possibly have 40 to 50% equity or more may not realize they can downsize and take their taxes with them. So at 6 cents a lead, 100 leads is $6. It's pretty darn cheap. So that's the first product. Second product is Prospect Now. Prospect Now is a system that you can get emails and phone numbers from by running all kinds of things. The best part about it is going to tell you who's most likely to sell. So there's a bunch of algorithms built in that you can go into buyers and sellers and even tenants and try to run who's most likely to sell, or on the tenant side, the buyers to go get, and great opportunity there. The third product is Cole. I will tell you, Prospect Now runs about $99 for a month for 500 or 600 leads, right?
500.
Yeah, something around there. They're negotiable. And I tell you, with COVID, I've told people to really negotiate because they will do stuff. The third product is Cole, and Cole Realty Source is basically a phone number, email address. But the best thing is you can literally put an address in, say, I want 100 phone numbers around there, and it's going to go find you 100 phone numbers. And it's about the same price. The difference between Cole and Prospect Now is Cole is you have to commit to 3 months. Prospect Now is a month to month. And then premium leads are price per price. So there are many options in all those specialty leads. If you're interested in really marketing that way, let one of us know.
Perfect. Our Chicago Agent One app.
That's me. Okay, many of you have our Chicago Agent One app, and many of you are using it, and some of you aren't using it. And we want to know why, or if you don't have it, we really want to know why. It's fabulous. So obviously you can do buyers and sellers net sheets, and it also has 11 free calculators in there. And if you don't know how to use those, Linda, Brad, Val, Lisa, and I can show you how to use those. We can have multiple conversations about how you can talk to your sellers and buyers, and you don't have to be a math wizard to know how to use it as well. So if you want information on our Chicago Agent One app, let us know. There's a free version and there's a paid version. The paid version has lenses in it, and the lenses are really cool. They're fun. And for only $1 a month, you can have the lenses and you can post those on your social media. You can email those, you can text those, you can put them up on Facebook and Instagram. So if you have any interest in learning about those, we all have the paid version and we can show those to you via Zoom. And it's really cool. So just let Linda, Brad, Val, or Lisa, or Jennifer, or I know, and we'll help you out.
Awesome. Thanks, Robin. And last but not least, Lisa's going to share a little bit about Breakthrough Broker.
Good morning, everyone. I am Lisa Williams. I cover the southern part of Fresno County. And Breakthrough Broker is probably my favorite partner resource that we offer our customers. Breakthrough Broker is a website that was designed by successful realtors out of Colorado. And they have taken their years of experience and all of the tips and tricks that they have used to help them become successful and put it into this website where we can pass it along to you, our clients, at no cost. It is by far, I believe, the top time-saving resource that we have. Everything within the website is, for the most part, a template format. It has business plans, marketing plans, buyer presentation templates, tutorials, how-tos for social media, accounting workbooks, checklists. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I think there's over 1,200 items in there. And again, so easy to work through that. And it's valuable information that can really help your business and save you a lot of time and money. So if you haven't been set up on Breakthrough Broker, reach out to one of us. We would be happy to get you set up and walk you through the sites because it is amazing.
Thanks, Lisa. So that's the contact information for all of our sales execs. I'm going to put my info in the chat because I didn't put it on the thing. If you're not quite sure who your sales exec is, then you can reach me at my phone number 559-213-5493, or shoot me a quick email, and I'm putting that email address in our chat below. Does anybody else have any questions or anything that you were hoping to get out of this class that we did not cover before we end? All right. Well, thank you guys again for taking the time out of your day. Hope this was helpful and informative, and that you'll reach out if there's anything else that we can be of service for. Look for that solar class next month, and it's most likely that we will also be doing another prelim class that just seems to be a very popular topic and lots of questions around that. So reach out to your sales exec if there's anything in particular that you'd like to know. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.
Yeah.